I call the honourable member Chris Farfui.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair, for giving me the chance to speak to Part 2 of the Social Security Long-Term Residential Care Budget Measures Amendment Bill. Mr Chair, in 1967, the Tremolos, a band that I'm sure many people who will be affected by this bill were fans of, released a song called Silence is Golden. Silence is Golden. And the chorus to that song, Mr Chair, was, silence is golden, but my eyes still see. And the people out beyond these walls know exactly what is happening here. They still see what is happening here, that this government is trying to sneak this piece of legislation, which significantly changes the way in which the threshold for assets for residential care is calculated for them. So what will it mean for them, Mr Chair? It'll mean a lot of them, it'll cost a lot more money for them to to pay for their residential home care, Mr Speaker. And this was not telegraphed. I can't see it anywhere in this piece of information that was sent by the National Party around election time last year. I didn't hear Mr Lottewinga out on the traps talking about raising the threshold by the CPI. I didn't see any of the members across the other side of the House talking about this, but it's so important, Mr Chair. This is so important that it needs to be rushed through this House under urgency. And it's so important, Mr Speaker, that it has to be rushed through this House under urgency and not mentioned in the budget speech once at all. And Mr Chair, this is so important that this needs to be rushed in the House under urgency. And how are the New Zealand people told about this? 1.5 lines at the bottom of a press release from the Health Minister. And this is a budget measure, Mr Chair, that the Minister in charge of this bill, the Honourable Paula Bennett, said was a priority for her government in her 1-minute speech in the first reading to the House. And her 1-minute contribution in the first reading of the House. And then, well, you've got to give Ms Goodhue some praise too, because at least she made a 2-minute speech. A 2-minute speech in the second reading of this bill that's before the House. But Mr Chair, I will remind you again of that song, Silence is Golden. Because the Minister and the Chair, and I noticed that the membership of the Chair has changed, and I would encourage the new Minister and the Chair to maybe perhaps take a call and answer the myriad of questions that have been asked by people on this side of the House as to why this has to be done. Because, Mr Chair, if this government is serious about, as Mr McIndoe said in another contribution, that they want to tackle the serious issues around aged care, then why bring this in and raise $4.5 million in the first year, and in the fourth year, 16.5? Thank you very much. You've solved the problems in aged care with that amazing measure that comes in with this bill. With that amazing measure that comes. Thank you very much to the National Party for sorting out aged care with this bill. Yep. It's ironic that the Minister in charge of this bill had the gall to say that this is a priority, and then it wasn't mentioned once in the budget speech, gets a half a mention in another press release, and the ministers that are in charge of shepherding this bill through the House afford it 3 minutes of time. And we won't even get the chance, Mr Chair, for the people who are concerned around this area, the 170 people who will be affected in the first year, and their families, and the aged care sector, to have their say, because this isn't going to a select committee. This is being rushed through this House under urgency. So the process is shameful and awful. And you've got to ask why this is happening. Because why is the government doing this? Why are they picking on the elderly? Why are they picking on the elderly? And at the other end of the scheme, why are they picking... Well, yeah, mate, yesterday was Kids' Day, and today is Elderly's Day. The Elderly's Day. And maybe what's going to come beyond this budget, Mr Speaker, will affect the rest. They've already hit all Kiwis with their rise in GST to give their mates a tax cut. But what is going to come next? Mr Speaker, this is bad leadership. Because there are serious issues around aged care that need to be addressed. I went to an aged care centre in Ian McKelvey's electorate soon, because they are facing serious issues and they need some serious thinking done about this issue. But what do they get? What do they get, Mr Chair? Mr Chair?
The Honourable Member, Chris Farfui.
Thank you. So what do the residents and the staff at Edale Residential Home in Martin get? This. 4 pieces of waffle from the National Party, which they claim is going to help sort out aged care in our country. What disrespect in another way can you get from this government in terms of making sure that our elderly people are looked after? This wasn't telegraphed in the various statements that were made by all the National Party candidates. Mr Goff mentioned before that Mr Key said during the election debate that we judge a government on how it treats our elderly. Well, this government is treating our elderly with disrespect because they're not giving them and their families and the aged care sector the chance to come and have their say. They may not like what they say, but at least they might they get their chance to have a say. And people on the other side of the fence get to have their say as well. Those who agree with these measures, at least they'll get their chance to have a say. And we as parliamentarians who have a duty to make sure we look after our elderly will be able to ask questions of those who are concerned about this bill. The people like the residents at Edale and Martin, and the number of residential homes that are in my electorate as well. Those people deserve to get the chance to have their say. But because we're here on a Friday, well, technically not on a Friday, this is still Thursday. Sorry, Mr Speaker, sorry, Mr Chair. Because we're still here talking about this bill under urgency, about the way that this bill changes the threshold for assets for residential care, they don't get to have their say, Mr Chair, and I think that is a shame. And it is a shame that this government is doing it this way. It had the opportunity to do it properly, to make sure that we had a select committee hearing into what is a serious issue, Mr Chair. But I just want to repeat again. I asked the Minister and the Chair to make a contribution, but silence is golden, but my eyes still see.
Call the Honourable Member Ruth Dyson.
Chairman, I'm really pleased to take a brief call.